They hit me with a $750 fine for grass that measured 3.1 inches, well under the 4-inch limit printed in the city code. 3 days later, a red-stamped lien notice appeared on my door. That was the moment I started printing everything. I'm Robert Harlan, civil engineer, retired from the county after 32 years of chasing drainage plans and load calculations. I live on Willow Bend Court in Plano, Texas, in the same brick ranch my late wife Laura and I paid off the day our daughter Grace left for college. Laura lost her fight with ovarian cancer 7 years ago. I promised Grace the house would stay in the family. A promise like that outweighs any covenant. The trouble began when the HOA president, Diane Whitaker, announced at the spring meeting that my solar array diminished the aesthetic continuity of the subdivision. She said it with the same smile she used for bake sale sign-ups. I reminded her that Texas law grants solar rights. She tilted her head. Statutes don't trump our CC and RS, Mr. Harlan. For citations arrived in the next month. Fence stain variants, driveway oil spots, mailbox tilt, and an unapproved composting station. The city itself had mailed me a brochure to encourage. Each carried a fine that doubled and a lien threat that sharpened. I appealed twice. Both appeals died in closed sessions with no quorum minutes recorded. One night, I opened the bylaws I'd skimmed when we moved in 21 years earlier and read them like a contract specification. Section 6.3 required 67% owner approval for any capital improvement over $50,000. Yet the board had quietly borrowed $420,000 for a clubhouse expansion. I underlined the line twice, then wrote on the first page of a fresh 3-ring binder, Audit every HOA. Begin here. My neighbor Tom Nguyen, a retired city building inspector with a laugh that rattled like loose gravel, came over with plat maps and a thermos of coffee strong enough to float nails. That strip behind the cul-de-sac never belonged to the association, he said, circling a shaded easement. County Drainage District. Always has been. Laura used to call me obsessive about patterns, traffic counts, rainfall graphs, zoning overlays. Now those habits became my defense. Every violation notice carried a timestamp. I built a spreadsheet. Intervals between citations, board vote dates, permit filings. The gaps weren't random. Someone synchronized my fines with cash flow needs. I requested financial records under Texas Property Code 209.005. 10 business days, the statute said. On day 11, I mailed a certified letter quoting the section verbatim. 2 days later, Diane appeared on my porch in a navy blazer, clipboard in hand. You're becoming a problem, Robert. Requesting lawful records isn't a problem, I answered. She leaned closer. Engineers think every column carries a load. Some loads are meant to stay buried. I caught a whiff of her rosewater perfume and understood intimidation was her native tongue. That weekend, I scanned every deed in the subdivision. A 2004 amendment referenced Phase 3 parcels reserved for future amenities under a dissolved limited partnership. Title had reverted to the county clerk by operation of law. Translation: the HOA did not own the ground beneath their dream clubhouse. I printed the parcel certificate and slid it into the binder like a round into a chamber. Knowledge Nugget 1. Texas Property Code 82.113. Common elements cannot be encumbered without 67% consent and proof of title. I smiled for the first time in weeks. The retaliation accelerated. A $500 fine for a porch bulb exceeding 1,800 lumens. A photo taken at 9:43 p.m. Through my Yupon hedge. Tom wheezed, "They're watching you." I shrugged. Cameras cut both ways. We installed motion lights, a mailbox cam, body cams on lanyards. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was building an audit trail. On the 5th business day, I drove to the county clerk and collected a single sheet. Parcel 27B, title retained by Plano Drainage District. I folded it like a love letter and sealed 3 envelopes. 8 days later, 3 police cruisers idled at my curb. Officer Morales, who coached Grace in middle school soccer, approached slowly. Got a call about an unpermitted structure and environmental hazard. He nodded toward the compost bin. I laughed too loud. Banana peels and eggshells, officer. He sighed and took the required photo while Diane's silver sedan lingered at the corner, window cracked just enough to watch. I added a harassment log to the binder. Officer name, badge number, date, tone. The numbers told their own story. At the next open meeting, Diane announced my property as a chronic noncompliance case. I raised a hand. Point of order. Section 3.7 requires 5 board members for enforcement. Only 3 present. Her frown lasted half a heartbeat, long enough for the room to notice. Afterward, a local reporter, Ellen Carter, whom I'd met years earlier on a flood mitigation study, caught me in the parking lot. "You really taking on the board?" "I'm taking on the math," I said. "The law does the rest." By mid-May, I had allies. Municipal law attorney Susan Patel reviewed my citations over diner coffee. Every violation traces to authority they don't possess. They're betting you'll fold under legal fees. I can't afford a lawsuit. Don't need one yet. File another 209 request. Mark it final notice before petition. She stirred her coffee and smiled like a woman who enjoyed discovery. When the second deadline passed, I slipped an anonymous copy of the parcel certificate under Diane's office door. No note, just the county seal. The next morning, the HOA posted a $900 special assessment for legal consultation and property acquisition. Panic smells like extra adjectives. Tom and I traced vendor payments through the state comptroller's site. Amenity Design LLC shared an address with Diane's husband's landscaping firm. Conflict of interest in 12-point font. Knowledge Nugget 2. Texas Business Organizations Code 22.230. Self-dealing violates fiduciary duty. June brought slashed tires on Grace's bike and a dented mailbox. I filed police report 2025-2189 and kept my online posts clinical. 30-second clips matching violation photos to statutes. One hit 50,000 views in 48 hours. The July board meeting filled every folding chair. When Diane tried to gavel through my case, 72-year-old Margaret Olson stood. Before we pay another dime, where did the money go? Applause cracked the drywall. I placed the parcel certificate on the podium. This land belongs to the county. Every dollar tied to it is void. Diane reached for the page. Susan cleared her throat. Touch it, and it becomes evidence. The room went still except for the air conditioner's hum. 2 weeks later, the HOA attempted an automatic draft of dues twice in one day. My bank froze the account. Susan wasn't surprised. Pressure tactic. Let them overextend. Grace asked if we'd have to move. The question hurt worse than any fine. No, honey. We're fixing the system so nobody else has to ask. I discovered Diane had personally signed every enforcement letter over $200. Bylaws required dual signatures. 47 violations, 1 pen. I labeled the tab governance breach and underlined it in red. By August, the neighborhood buzzed. Lawn crews slowed near my house. The mail carrier lingered. Diane scheduled a groundbreaking ceremony for the clubhouse on September 5th, gold-painted shovels and all. I printed the county certificate, framed it, and set it beside Laura's redbud sapling. Visual beat 1 was coming. On the morning of the ceremony, Diane stood in a teal suit, shovel raised like Lady Liberty. Homeowners filled the cul-de-sac. A county inspector named Daryl Ruiz waited by his truck. I stepped forward with a manila envelope. Before you disturb county property, read this. I handed the documents to Ruiz. He scanned the seal. Title belongs to the drainage district. You lack authority. Diane's face went the color of wet ash. Cameras caught the moment. Shovel frozen midair, inspector holding proof, crowd inhaling as one. Visual beat 1, immortalized. That night, 2 board members resigned. The bank froze the loan. The clubhouse died on paper. Diane fought back with a cease and desist, accusing me of defamation. Susan's reply was 4 lines. Statements true, documented, public interest. Silence followed. I drafted a 12-page transparency charter. Term limits, quarterly open books, independent ethics review, live-streamed meetings. At the October annual meeting, the hall overflowed. Diane's gavel cracked clean in half when the vote passed 74-3. Visual beat 2, splintered wood, her resignation, applause rolling like thunder. Implementation was quieter but permanent. Dues rolled back 20%, financials posted online, questionable payments totaling $61,000 flagged for restitution. Diane reimbursed $1,450 and accepted a 5-year fiduciary ban. The new interim board met under fluorescent lights and coffee steam, not subpoenas. One mild November evening, we held a barbecue in the park. Kids chased fireflies. Grace laughed without checking locks. Visual beat 3. Old violation notices curling orange in a fire pit, edges glowing against the dark, then ash. 3 neighboring HOAs adopted similar charters within 6 months. Strangers emailed blueprints. I kept the original binder on a shelf beside Laura's photo. Grace asked what came next. I looked down the quiet street, porch lights steady as stars. There's always another HOA, I said. She laughed, but I was already reaching for a fresh binder. Now I ask you, when authority ignores its own rules, do you tear it down or force it to grow up? Have you faced intimidation dressed as governance, fake liens, midnight vandalism, selective fines? Did you fight with lawyers, cameras, or silence? Violence and injustice wear many uniforms. Some carry clipboards instead of weapons. Tell me your line in the sand. Post it below. Your neighbor might need the courage tomorrow.